For those of you that are here already, you're going to need your Wednesday activity number 1. That's going to be a bag that has a plastic cup, a bag of soil, some seeds, and yarn. And you'll also need, I believe in your bags there should be a second water bottle. If there's not, you'll need that water bottle from yesterday emptied out because we're going to use it for today's activity. So again, that's Wednesday activity number 1 and a water bottle, either the one we used yesterday or a new one with nothing inside of it. Once you have Wednesday activity number 1, you can go ahead and let me know in the chat or show me to the camera. That way I know we can get started. All right, Anthony, you've got your stuff. Great. Ready? Awesome. All right. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started with this activity then. What we're going to be making today is actually going to be a hydroponic seed starter. So do any of you guys know what hydroponic means or hydroponics? No? All right, hydroponics is basically when you build a plant growing system that's based on water. Hydro is water. Yes, that's the activity right there in the bag if you weren't able to find it. So basically what we're going to be doing today is we're going to make a little seed starter that we're going to grow a sprout in that involves watering itself. It's self-watering with our water bottle, some soil, our seeds, and the yarn here. So the first thing that you're gonna want to do with your water bottle is go ahead and take that lid off, and you're going to use your scissors. These should be in your art supplies. Mine are bigger, yours will be smaller. And you are going to very, very carefully cut your water bottle in half. One good way to go about it might be to pinch it just a little bit and make a small cut, kind of like the way we cut our paper last week for our lightsabers. You're just going to put a small little hole in it. And then, let me find my hole. There we go. You'll just stick the scissors inside and cut all the way around the edge. And you're cutting it in half. All right. Now be careful when you're handling your water bottle after this. Some of these sides may be a little bit sharp. Mine's not too bad, but you just want to use caution. You don't want to get a little scratch on your finger or anything like that. All right. So I'll give you a moment to get your water bottles cut in half. And it's a little bit easier if you didn't take the lid off. It's a little easier with the lid off because your bottle will squish a little bit more and it'll cut easier. My water bottle still had some water. Clean that up. All right. So once you have your water bottle cut in half, just like this, my other half is a little bit bigger than my bottom half. The next step to creating your self-watering system here is going to be to actually poke 3 holes in the side of the top of the water bottle. So I'm going to poke, let me take a marker here, and I'll show you where I'm going to do this. it's a little hard to see still. I'm gonna put, nah, 3 little holes. Here we go. We'll get the zoom on. 3 little, I got X's there. There you go. You can kind of see them. 3 holes just like that in the side of your water bottle. These holes that we're making right here, these are actually going to act as drainage holes for your plants. So plants like a lot of water. The water definitely keeps them nice and healthy. But if they get too much water, that can also make them really sick. So when you're planting a plant, it's always good to have a drainage hole of some type so that any extra water that the plant can't absorb can actually leave the pot and the plant can stay healthy. So I'm going to go ahead and put some holes. And I see a couple people have joined us. If you guys want to go ahead and get out Wednesday activity 1 and catch up to us, you can. Or if you would like to, you could just hang out and start on the next activity with us. Oh my gosh, that is definitely not fun. I have quite a few plants at home myself. I love growing them, and overwatering is definitely something I've done a few times before. So it's very easy to do. Plants can sometimes be really picky about where they like to live. So once you have those holes poked into the side of your cup, we are going to add a little bit of water to our bottom half of our water bottle. You don't want to fill it all the way up. I would say maybe to the first little squiggly line on your water bottle, or about 1/3 of the way up. So I'm going to fill mine. And just got a little bit of water right there at the bottom. Not too much, not too low. It's right at that first line. All right. Then the next part is to create a wicking system. So wicking is basically where you put something down into the water, like the extra yarn that we've got here in our kit. Only going to cut off maybe 3 inches of that. What this yarn is going to do once we actually put it into our self-watering system is it's going to pull the water up into the yarn and then up into the soil of our plants. So we're not actually going to put our plant directly down into the water, because again, then it's sitting in the water and it's not going to be happy. We're going to use this yarn here to pull the water from the bottom cup here into the soil in the top half. So you want to go ahead and cut 2 pieces of your yarn, maybe 3 or 4 inches long, maybe the palm of your hand size. All right. And then once you have those, you're just going to stick them into the mouthpiece of your bottle here. You might want to lay it down, that way they don't fall out on you. So they're basically going to be hanging out of the mouthpiece of the bottle, just like this. And in a minute, we'll put them down in the water and they'll pull the water into the soil. Hold them here.
Can you show that a little bit closer, please?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm holding it in with my fingers at the moment, but just got them hanging out the bottom here. And in just 1 second, we'll go ahead and put our soil in here too. All right, so that is actually the next step, is to put the soil in this half of our water bottle. But before you do that, as of right now, we've just got this big gigantic hole here in the bottom. We're gonna want to close that up. So what you're gonna do, you're just gonna keep your yarn in place, and you're going to take the cap of your water bottle and very loosely, you don't want to tighten it super tight, just give it a little turn so that those pieces of yarn are still sticking out. but your soil is not going to fall out of the bottom of this water bottle here. So I've got my 2 pieces of yarn sticking out the side, caps on just a little bit, and now we move on to our next step. Oh, Tiana, the water bottle you're looking for is the water bottle you used yesterday, or you might have a second one in your bag. I just reused the one I used on our experiments yesterday. All right. So once you have the strings hanging out of the mouth of your water bottle and your cap loosely tied on or screwed on, you are going to take the soil that you've got in your soil bag and that nice clear cup that came with it. And you're going to put some soil into your top half of the water bottle. So this is where we're actually going to plant the seeds. So I'm going to add a little bit more. Oops. Yeah, almost until the top. However much soil you'd like to add, it's up to you. Your seed's only going to be in here for a little bit while it's a baby, and then when it gets big, you can transfer it to a bigger pot. All right. So once you have the soil added to the top half of your water bottle, it is time to plant your seed. So your kit also came with a couple of seeds in a tiny bag like this. Yours might be different from mine. Here it looks like I have pumpkin seeds, so that's going to be exciting. Maybe come Halloween, I'll have my very own pumpkin that I can carve myself, if I take care of it and make sure I don't overwater it, of course. So all you're going to do to actually plant your seed into the bottle is take your finger and dig a little hole right there in the middle, just enough room for your seed. Plop it in. I'm only going to plant one so that he stays nice and happy, and then cover the seed up. And you want to make sure it's fully covered. If you would like, you can also take some extra soil.
Is it both for the seeds?
I'm only going to plant one because it's a big seed, but you can plant 2 and see if you can get both of them to sprout. It's up to you. So now I've got my seed nice and covered. The very last step to creating our self-watering seed starter is to place the top half of our bottle with the strings down into our water here. Just like this. And then you're going to want to set this in a sunny place. You can set it outside. You can set it on a windowsill in your bedroom, just a place where it can get some nice sun. What's going to happen over time is this yarn is actually going to pull the water into the soil. Like I said, it's going to wick that water up, and it is going to water this plant here for you. You're going to want to keep an eye out on it and make sure that you don't run out of water in the bottom. Always add some more. That way your plant can get all of the water that it needs to grow big and healthy. So we're going to go ahead and set that to the side. And see if we can get anything to grow here in the next couple of weeks from that. And while you guys are cleaning up from this activity, the next activity that you're going to want to get out is Wednesday number 2. That bag.
Can we put the rest of the soil in the other plants that we have?
Yeah, absolutely. You don't need this soil for anything else this week. So if you want to use it for something else, you are more than welcome to. So while you're cleaning up, like I said, you're going to want Wednesday activity number 2. You're going to have a sheet of paper with some colorful pictures on it of animals, plants, the sun, some worms, and things like that. There's also going to be 6 red plastic cups in that bag. I need to get those guys out. And you will also need your scissors again and your tape from your supply kit. We're going to be using both of these. All right. Oh, let me get my soil out of the way. Okay, does everyone have Wednesday activity number 2 out?
No.
All right, go ahead and finish up with activity number 1, get out activity number 2. That's what we're gonna move on to now. If you have activity number 2, you can go ahead and start cutting out your pictures that are on this sheet of paper here. You're gonna wanna cut out each one, each square. Activity number 2 is a bag that has this paper with pictures in it. It also has plastic cups, 6 plastic cups. It should be labeled. It says Wednesday activity number 2. All right, Emily, were you able to find that Wednesday activity number 2? Maybe we're still looking. Wednesday activity 2 has 6 plastic cups, and it has this sheet of paper with pictures on it. Yes, Arsenia, that's it right there. And that's what it looks like in the bag too. That way you can see it. I already took mine out of the bag this morning. All right. How about now? Is there anyone who can't find Wednesday activity number 2? Oh, that one wasn't labeled for you. Okay, yeah, if it's not labeled, it's just 6 cups and this sheet of pictures here. All right, so if you are not able to find it yet, that is a-okay. Just go ahead and watch along as we do it here. The first thing that you're gonna wanna do is cut out these 12 pictures that you've got here on this sheet of paper. They don't have to be cut out neatly, just cut them right out so that we can do our activity with them. When they're finished, you're gonna have a little pile of pictures just like this here. So I've already got mine cut out. So while you guys are cutting, I have a question for you. Does anybody know what a food chain is, or could tell me what a food chain is?
I know what's a food chain.
What's a food chain?
Food chain is like a life cycle, like if from a butterfly. A caterpillar, like the egg of the caterpillar, and then it starts to a caterpillar, and then it goes to a cocoon, into a butterfly.
Yeah, so that's really close. It's very similar. It is a sort of cycle. The food chain is basically the transfer of energy from one animal or organism to the next, usually through eating. So in the food chain, we have 4 main parts to the food chain. That is our producer. Producers actually create energy themselves. So the easiest producer to remember is going to be our sun. That gives off light and heat energy to us every day. And then the second step is going to be something called a primary consumer. A primary consumer is an animal or organism that gets their energy directly from the producer. So one example of a primary consumer that gets its energy directly from the sun would be a plant. Plants actually take the energy that they receive from the sun and turn that into food themselves. The next step of the food chain is something called a secondary consumer. A secondary consumer is an animal or organism that eats or gets their energy from a primary consumer or another consumer. So for example, in the food chain, if we have the sun and then we have the plants, A secondary consumer would be something that eats the plant. So looking at my examples here, something that might eat this plant is the bunny. So that would be our secondary consumer here. The very last step to the food chain is always the decomposers. Decomposers are the very last step in the food chain, and they actually break down the organisms so that that energy can be reabsorbed by themselves and then also into other plants and animals. So the decomposer that we've got here in our little kit of pictures is actually worms. So for example, we've got the sun. The sun gives energy to the plants. The plants are eaten by our rabbit friends. And at the end of our rabbit's life cycle, the worms get a tasty snack as well. So what we are going to do once we've got all of our pictures cut out, you are going to pick 6 of these pictures out here. And you have to have at least one producer. The only producer that we have here is the sun, and you have to have at least one decomposer. The decomposer is going to be the worms. The other 4 you get to pick yourself. So I'm looking at mine, and I think I'm going to pick this nice bush of berries for my primary consumer. And then maybe for a secondary consumer, I will pick a squirrel. Squirrels like to eat berries off of plants. And then that gives us 1, 2, 3, 4. So we need 2 more animals or organisms. So something that might eat a squirrel is, let's see here, maybe an owl. Hungry owl came across a small squirrel. They might take a snack out of that. And then let's see. The only things left are foxes and bears, but I'm not certain if a fox and a bear eat a squirrel. Maybe if they came across it, they would enjoy it. So I'll go ahead and pick the fox. So now I've got 6 pictures here in front of me. I've got my producer, my primary consumer, secondary consumers, and my decomposer. So what you're going to do when you have your 6 pictures picked, you can pick the same ones as me, you can pick different ones. You're going to take your tape and the 6 plastic cups that you have here, and you're going to tape your pictures onto your cups, just like that. So 1 cup gets 1 picture. So I'm going to go ahead and start taping mine. So I'll put these to the side. All right, you can let me know when you're done. This might take a little bit of time. All right, so got 4 cups done. Still got my producer, the sun, my primary consumer, which is my bush of berries, the squirrel, the owl, and now my fox, which would be a secondary consumer. And then my very last cup is going to be my decomposer. All right. So I have mine set up in order here, but if you want to, you can give your family a little quiz later. What you're going to do with these cups is basically stack them in the order that the energy is transferred through. So we have first our producer that produces the energy themselves. So we've got our sun here. Our sun is absorbed. The energy is given to our berry bush. So that goes on top. Now it's taking the energy from the sun. Next up, we have our secondary consumer, the squirrel. It eats the berries. Our owl eats the squirrel. Oops. Yep, our fox eats the owl. And then our worms eat the fox in the end. So that is our food chain there. If you have extra plastic cups at home, you can put the rest of your pictures onto those plastic cups. And then maybe later on today after dinner, you can, ask your family if they think that they can figure out the food chain with these cups as well. So it's a really easy, fun way to see how we get our energy through different animals and plants. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and put mine over here to the side. And let's see, if you can, when you are done with your food chain cups, give me a smiley face in the chat or a done message, just so I know. I want to give you time to get those made. All right, awesome. So our next activity, you're not actually going to need to get anything out for it because I'm just going to be explaining it to you, and then you're going to be able to do it on your own after our call today, just because it does take a little bit more time, and I want to make sure you guys have enough time to get that finished before the end of our call today, because we do have a special show, which I'll tell you about in just a moment. So as you're finishing up your cups and putting those away, I do want to talk to you guys a little bit about our friends, the owls. So I've got an owl right here in front of me. This is just a plastic owl that you can get like in the garden section of the store. It's made as a scarecrow to scare away birds. Like if you have a garden and you've got some blackbirds that really like to eat your berries, you can put something like this out there and it'll keep them away. So before I get started telling you anything about the owl, I'd like to hear what you know about the owl. Does anybody want to share in the chat one thing that you know about owls? And it could be anything you know at all. They have large claws. Yep, their talons. Those are definitely useful. Tiana, they're nocturnal. Great. Who else knows anything about owls? They can see in the dark. They go hoot. Great. Okay, so I'm going to go over our little owl friend that we have here and let you know what's going on. And that's actually the first thing I was going to say. Starting at the very top of our owl, we've got two great big tufts right here. Do you guys think that these are ears? If you saw an owl with these things, would you think they're ears? No, yes, okay. So a lot of people do think that these are ears, but these tufts here are actually just groups of feathers that stick straight up. There's a couple different types of owls that have these. The ears on the owl are actually further down. We don't have them here on the plastic owl, but they're further down on the head. These tufts of hair, sometimes referred to as horns, they can actually be used to signal the mood of the owl. They can be used as camouflage by some owls. Also, they can be used in like signs of aggression. So maybe if there was another male owl in their territory, they could kind of puff them up and try and scare them away. So yeah, these are called tufts right here on the top of the head. We got next down On the owl, their eyes. So I did see that they can see in the dark and they are nocturnal. So not most, some owls are nocturnal, but other owls are awake during the day. So there is actually a way to tell if an owl is awake during the night, which is nocturnal, or awake during the day, like us humans. And that is by looking at the color of their eyes. So let me put this here. So when you're looking at the color of this owl's eyes, they look a little green in the camera, but they're more of a yellow-orange color. You can tell when an owl is awake by looking at their eyes. When an owl with orange eyes, like this, are awake during twilight, which is kind of that time of day where it's just starting to get dark, but it's not quite dark yet. And it's also still daytime. And then owls with dark brown or black eyes are awake at night. So if you ever are looking at an owl and you see black eyes, that means they're nocturnal and they're going to be awake at night. And then lastly, if you see an owl with yellow eyes, which these are more yellow than orange, those are diurnal, which means they're awake during the day. So that's one way to figure it out, but they're not always going to be awake at night. Some like to be up during the day. Next, down on our little owl friend, we have his beak here. Okay, if you can see it, it's got a little bit of a hook to it. Owls are actually birds of prey. There we go. Which means that they are carnivores. Everybody know what a carnivore is? Some yeses, some no's. Carnivores are animals that eat meat and only meat. So owls are not going to go around picking berries off of bushes or eating salads. They are looking for small animals to eat throughout the day. When they are hunting, they will use their big eyes. They also have wings, which you can't really see here. The wings have very special flowers. They have very special feathers that make them silent throughout the air. So if this owl is up in a tree and he spots a small mouse with his eyes, he's going to use his big silent wings to swoop down and then catch that mouse with his large talons here at the bottom. The talons are, of course, used for grabbing their prey, but they can also use them to hang on to branches real tight or to groom themselves. So when they need to clean themselves up, they'll also use their talons here for that. So I know owl pellets were mentioned in the chat just a little bit ago. Basically, owls, when they eat the mice and small prey that they find, they cannot chew it up in their mouth. So they actually will swallow it whole, and then that mouse has to go somewhere. There's fur, there is also bones, like their little skulls and things like that. And the way that it leaves the owl's body is through owl pellets. So does anyone want to take a guess as to what owl pellets are? Because I know what they sound like to me when I hear owl pellets. Got a hint. Someone already said it in the chat. So owl pellets are not owl poop, which some people think that it might be. They are something that the owl actually spits up or regurgitates, and it's all of the animal parts that they couldn't digest in their stomach. So it's sort of similar to vomit, like Lizzie said, but it's not vomit either. It's more like a hairball. So if any of you guys have cats at home, when they groom themselves, they get a lot of hair that they can't eat or digest. So they'll just kind of spit it up. And there's nothing really gross in it. It's just them getting rid of what they can't digest. So you do have in your bags, and again, you're going to be doing this later so that you can take your time. Wednesday activity number 3 is actually an owl pellet dissection. So when you open this later today, inside you're going to see a bone sorting chart. This is, oh, sea monkeys, great. Those guys are growing good. So on your bone ID chart, when you're going through your owl pellet later, you're actually going to be able to take all of those little bones, line them up on this sheet, and see which animal that you have. So your owl pellet may have inside of it a small bird, a mole, a shrew, a rodent or mouse of some type, and then this will also help you identify the parts of the body. Also in that pack, you will have an owl pellet skeleton sheet. So this will help you, see if we can get that glare out of the way. This will help you actually look at the bones that you have in your owl pellet, lay them out, and see the whole animal. You might not have a whole animal in your owl pellet, but this will at least give you an idea of where those bones came from in the small animal that your owl ate. Also, in activity number 3, which again, we don't want to get this started now, you're going to have some gloves. You might want to wear those. You don't have to. The owl pellets are sanitized, so there is nothing icky in there that could hurt you in any way. But if you just don't like the idea of touching an owl pellet with your own hands, we've got some gloves in there for you. We also have, let me get them, some tweezers that you can use, and a popsicle stick. So when you're going at the owl pellet later today, and I'll actually show you real quick, here is the owl pellet. When you are doing your owl pellet, it's going to be up to you how you dissect it. So you've got the tweezers. The tweezers are a little more helpful for when you've already found a bone and you need to just pull that out. But the popsicle stick is going to be good to break it open. So I'm just going to show you with mine. I've got my popsicle stick here. And you can actually, it's pretty hard, but we've got some fur. And you just want to kind of break it apart. See if I can find a bone on the surface here. Oh, looks like I've got feathers, so I probably have a small bird. And a little difficult to see. But this is the first bone that I was able to find. Let's hold it. There we go. So if I look at my chart here, it looks like, looking at my bone, that I have a jaw of some sort. Not quite sure what. I'm going to have to keep dissecting my owl pellet to find out. So that's super fun. You guys can take your time to do that later on today. I'm going to put mine to the side for me to finish later. And you get to keep all of the bones and stuff that you find in there. Or maybe, you know, if mom's a little grossed out, she might let you look at it for a little bit before getting rid of it. But they're pretty cool to look at for the time being. The other activity that I want to let you know how to do that's in your kit is Wednesday activity number 4. This kit is very, very easy to do. You've got inside this sheet of paper that's got a hole punched in the top, looks like a bookmark. That's because that's what it is. It's a bookmark. You also have some yarn that you can tie to the top of your bookmark to make it easier to find in your books. You have a piece of what we call contact paper. It's basically just a clear, sticky sheet, sort of like tape. And then you will also have a piece of snake skin in your bag. So this is actually a piece of skin that one of our snakes here at the IMAG shed when they were shedding their skin. All that you're going to do with this to make your very own snake skin bookmark is put it anywhere on the bookmark that you would like, peel off the contact paper, and just put it over it. So then you'll be able to use it in your books. You can write your name on it. You can draw a snake on it. You can do whatever you'd like with that. And then when you're doing your summer reading before you go back to school, you've got a nice bookmark to use for it. All right.
Can I say something really quick?
Yeah, sure.
You know, when you said the dissecting the owl pellet, I dissected, and my mom just almost passed out.
Oh my gosh. I know moms aren't usually the fans of the owl pellets, that's for sure, but
Yeah.
they're my favorite activity. I love to do them. All right, guys. So, we do actually have today a Science on a Sphere show that's actually going to be during our lesson right now. That way you don't have to log out and then get back on another link. We're going to make it super easy. And in just a moment, we will start that. But first, I want to tell you about our optional Zoom calls today. I have had them sitting right here for you, and I'll hold them up for just a little bit for you to see. Today at 11 o'clock, we're going to have a live science show. The live science shows, you never really know what you're going to get with them. It's one of our education staff here. They like to do a lot of fun experiments. You could see fire. You could see huge balloons being blown up with chemicals. We never really know. So definitely tune in for that show at 11. And then for our animals today at 2:30, we're going to go out and see Percy the tortoise. So Percy is actually a tortoise that we have here on our property. You can visit him if you ever come to the IMAG. We're going to go out to his living area today. We'll take the camera out there. One of our animal care team will teach you all about Percy, and also they might show you how to clean up his cage and what he's got out there in his environment. Any questions about those activities? Or the activities we just did? I see Leland, how to do the bookmark. It's super easy. You decorate it however you'd like. Stick the snake skin on it with that contact paper there, and then you've got yourself a bookmark. Any other questions today? No? Yes, Leland, you have tortoises in your backyard. So you can see what we've got here on our property. All right, so we're going to get started with the Science on a Sphere show. What is going to happen is in just a second, I am going to mute my microphone and my video. We're going to get set up watching that Science on a Sphere show and then turn it back on. You guys stay exactly where you are. You do not have to do anything. We'll get started with that show. So see you in a second.
Hold on, I have one question. Oh, man. Jesus, holy Christ.
Yes, what's your question? Sorry.
My question is, as teachers for this afternoon's class, we have 2 pages of stuff,
Okay.
PDF files, but I don't know what it is, which lesson is what. So if I tell the students, I'm going to do this lesson, and for example, let's say the food web.
Uh-huh.
Is that one I'm supposed to do today?
The food web is actually an extra activity off of the food chain. For you guys today, you have the thermogenic or thermochromic Play-Doh, animal bingo, and the snake egg experiment.
All right, animal bingo, the thermogenic.
I believe it's, I think thermogenic is a typo. I believe it's actually called thermochromic.
Okay, and animal bingo, and what was the other one? The snake what?
Snake egg experiment, activity number 7.
Okay, now if I could just suggest, because on the first week you gave us a Jedi Warrior agenda. I was doing on Monday, what you were doing, what we were doing. This week we don't have anything like that.
Oh, I will definitely pass the suggestion along for that, for sure. Absolutely.
I have no idea what I'm supposed to prepare for. And I mean, I've got things to do, and then I come back at 1 o'clock and open up and start looking, and I'm going, I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Right. Yeah, I will definitely pass that along, and we'll get that to you hopefully soon.
And then also I need the YouTube link where you're videotaping these, so I can pass these on to the kids that don't show up, because we don't have the links.
Absolutely. We'll get that sent to you today for sure as well.
All righty. Thank you very much.
Of course. Of course. So everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started with our Science on a Sphere show. You're going to want to just keep yourself muted for this. We'll have someone explaining to you what's going on the sphere we've got here at the IMAG. Just give us one moment.
I still use the mic or? Yeah, still use the mic so that you can hear. All right, hi everybody. So today for our Science on a Sphere presentation, we're going to be talking about natural disasters. Now, really quickly, a natural disaster is really any natural event that causes significant damage or loss of life. That's all it is. And there are many different types of natural disasters we're going to cover today with our sphere. So, our first is actually just looking at real-time satellite images. And so this is showing cloud coverage. This actually goes back a month all the way until present day. What this does is it allows us to track location and movement of clouds and storms. Now, up next, this is actually showing satellites and their paths. So satellites are an important tool to track weather and natural disasters. And this image shows where some of our satellites are and the path they take to orbit us. And what I'll do is I'll actually move this around so we can see the US here and all the different paths that these satellites take when they orbit us. Okay. So up next, we're actually going to get into our first type of natural disaster. We're going to be looking at hurricanes. So, Once again, I'm going to spin it around so you guys can see the US here. Now, this is actually showing Hurricane Irma. You can see it move across the Atlantic Ocean, making her way towards Florida. And you can see that she has a really nice defined eye wall that occurs with the more powerful storms. Hurricane Irma actually had sustained winds of right around 185 miles an hour. After Hurricane Irma, you'll actually see another hurricane with a pretty well-defined eye wall. And that smaller hurricane was Hurricane Jose. So I'm going to let this play through. It'll actually start over once again. And so we can watch Hurricane Irma build slowly in the Atlantic. And then once again, right behind Irma is a smaller, less powerful storm, and that was Hurricane Jose. Okay. Now, up next, this next one looks kind of weird. It basically looks like someone just took a bunch of blue spaghetti and threw it on the screen. But what this is showing all of the tropical storms and hurricanes all the way back from 1950 up until 2005. Now you might notice there's a lot of blue, right? That's actually a good thing because the blue is showing weaker storms, things like tropical depressions and tropical storms with less powerful winds than hurricanes. But there are some orange and some red lines as well. Those are your really devastating storms. Those are your storms like Hurricane Irma, right? With really high sustained winds, some of them up to 165 plus miles an hour. Now, like I said, luckily there are more blue than red lines, but you can actually barely see Florida under all of those lines. So I'm going to pause this real quick. I'm going to spin it back. And there would be Florida right here, but you can barely see it because it is completely obstructed by all of the storms since 1950. This is really, really important because this tool actually, it provides us with information to predict future hurricanes and their paths. Okay, up next, we have a different kind of natural disaster. All of these little green triangles are actually showing volcanoes. Now, these are only showing known volcanoes, and this could be a volcano that's dormant, this could be a volcano that's active, it covers all of them. And 75% of all of these volcanoes are actually found in one location called the Ring of Fire that's around the Pacific Ocean. So as it spins around, make sure you check out the Pacific Ocean. I'll speed up the process a little bit. And pull it down so everybody can see. So as you can see, there's a staggering number of volcanoes in that area. Once again, that area is known as the Ring of Fire. Okay, so on our next slide, we're actually going to be showing areas where there have been volcanic eruptions. So once again, remember that these green triangles, these can include dormant volcanoes, but the next data set here, all of these red volcanoes, those are volcanic eruptions. So as you can see, there's a lot less of these than there were of green, and that's actually a good thing. And that's because not all of the volcanoes from the previous data set have erupted anytime recently. Many of those were dormant. And as of right now, there can be up to 20 volcanoes erupting, but most eruptions are really, really small. They don't even typically make the news because they're so small. So we're going to bring it around once again to the Ring of Fire in the Pacific. A whole lot less red triangles than there were green, right? That's a good thing. Okay. We're going to move on to another type of natural disaster, earthquakes. So looking at this data set, you'll notice that there is actually a little key here at the bottom, and it has different circles of different sizes with different numbers in them. That is showing the Richter scale, and the Richter scale is actually logarithmic. So what that means is that a 4 magnitude earthquake is not just a little bit stronger than a 3 magnitude, it is a whole lot stronger. So it goes up exponentially on the Richter scale. Now, I want you guys to look around. I'm going to spin the globe. look at just how many there are, especially in the Caribbean. There's also a lot in the Pacific Northwest of the United States as well. Now, once again, luckily many of these are pretty small, relatively speaking, but this next data set that I want to show you shows a really, really large earthquake. So you see our scale here goes up to an 8 magnitude. This next one that happened in Japan was actually a 9 magnitude earthquake. So we're going to spin this around, pull it down. I want you guys to look right in this area, because there will be soon a 9 magnitude earthquake that goes off. There it is. You see all of that blue and red? Those are really, really large tidal waves. So that caused tsunami activity that made it all the way down to the tip of South America. Now, what I like to tell people is that here in Florida, we don't really think of something in Japan being able to affect us too much, right? But if you look at where Florida is at, and you see Central America's landmass, that actually provided us with a buffer from all of those really large waves. So it's very important that we have that landmass there to protect us, because as you guys saw, it went all the way down to the tip of South America before those waves calmed down. Okay. Now, hand in hand with tsunamic activity, we actually have smart buoys. So I'm going to pull it over here, and then I'm going to give it a pause. So once again, we have red triangles, but these are a little bit different. These are showing smart buoys that are in our oceans. These smart buoys actually track wave height. And so, for an example, if you are in Alaska, and there's a smart buoy right off your coast, and you have an earthquake in Alaska that causes a huge tidal wave to go past that buoy will actually tell the buoy in Hawaii, which is only about 2 or 3 hours away, that's how fast that wave can travel. It will alert that buoy in Hawaii and tell the people there that they need to seek higher ground. So these smart buoys can actually save a lot of lives. Okay, now we're on to our final type of natural disaster. These are fires. I'm going to make sure that everybody can see. There's a lot of activity in South Africa and South America. Not as much in North America. But I wanted to go over fires because a lot of people don't realize that fires are not typically caused by natural occurrences. Us humans are typically about 80 to 85% of the time the reason why a fire starts. So only 10 to 15% of fires are caused naturally by something like lightning. But humans are actually responsible either through unattended campfires, arson, or even discarded cigarettes. So we make up 85 to 90% of all fires around the globe. So I hope this was informative. I hope you guys learned a little bit. Do we have any questions? Any questions popping up? I want to make sure we don't miss anybody's. Okay. Alrighty, guys. Well, I hope you had fun. I hope you learned something, and we hope to see you again next time. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.